The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome to the Draft Zone. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the draft game here with the Chicago Bears in the 20th overall selection in the NFL draft. And what the draft game is essentially a look back at draft history. In this case, we take a specific team and a specific pick, and we look back at the history of that team and that pick over a 13-year span from 2000 to 2012. And in this case, the Chicago Bears and the 20th pick is what we'll be examining here in the draft game. And we'll take each and every single player drafted in that span in the first round by the Chicago Bears and at the 20th pick over that span in the first round and grade them out using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run, and the occasional strikeout. Tally them up, come up with an aggregate score that will allow us to kind of project what the Chicago Bears might do with the 20th overall selection. Now, history isn't always a direct indicator of what's going to occur in the future. However, history does give us a look back at what normally occurs at that pick. And sometimes you can't deny trends from the past. So we'll look at the 20th overall selection, grade it out. We'll look at the Bears' first round selections over that same span, grade it out, average the two together, and see what we get. And see if the Bears will fall in line with that pick, or will they buck that trend and get a really good player at 20 in the 2013 draft. So I'll be using this spreadsheet here that you see in front of you to grade out these players, as each player drafted in the first round over the last 13 seasons is on this spreadsheet that I've put together. So without any further ado, let's get to the 2000 draft at the 20th selection and start grading out these players one by one. So we start at pick 20 in 2000. Stocker McDougal, tackle out of Oklahoma, drafted by the Detroit Lions. And Stocker McDougal probably could be a single. I probably could give him a single. He lasted long enough in the league. He was okay. But when you draft a tackle, and sometimes I'm hard on certain players, I don't know why, but when you draft a tackle in this league, you draft a tackle in the first round with the expectation of this guy being your left tackle in Stocker McDougal's case, or right tackle for the next 7 to 10 years minimum. When you draft a tackle in the first round, you don't expect to have to spend another pick at that position for at least 5 to 10 years. Well, in the case of the Detroit Lions, Stocker McDougal didn't make it to a second contract. And so, for me, I have a problem with that. And he was out of the league by 2006, essentially. And so, a 6-year career with modest production probably could warrant a single, probably should warrant a single. But I'm striking out Stocker McDougal here. Outside corner, painted beautifully. He's questioning whether it was a strike or not. He doesn't like the call. But at the end of the day, I'm the umpire here, and it's my decision. And that pitch painted the outside corner beautifully. Strike 3. Out for Stalker McDougal in 2000. You look at 2001, Adam Archuleta, safety out of Arizona State. Look, Adam Archuleta was solid. And I think Adam Archuleta was a hard-hitting safety that could make the occasional play on the football, but he was more known for tackling. He was solid. He made plays for the Rams. Thought he was really good with St. Louis. After he left, he was never the same guy. This is a great example of what a big payday can do for guys. He gets a big payday and his career goes south. Simple as that. Adam Archuleta, a double. I'll give him that. I think he was good enough to be a double in this league over his career. You look at 2002. 20th overall selection goes to the Green Bay Packers. They select Florida State receiver Javon Walker. I most remember Javon Walker for the spat he had with Brett Favre when Brett Favre told him, hey, stop holding out, come in and play football. He takes Brett Favre's advice, tears his ACL. His career essentially is never the same. Javon Walker probably should have held out and tried to get his money. He went to Oakland where careers go to die, and his career died. Javon Walker had all the potential in the world to be a great receiver in this league. It never happened. He's a single. You look at 2003. Offensive tackle George Foster, drafted by the Denver Broncos. Okay, pick. What more do you want me to say? He's a journeyman, been around the league, hanging on by a thread to this very moment. George Foster, single. 2004, 20th overall selection goes to the Minnesota Vikings. They select Kenichi Udeze out of USC. Defensive end. And he was okay. Had his career shortened by a leukemia diagnosis. And so his career was cut short. And so we really never got to see if he was going to get better over the course of his career. Had a slow start to his career, but some guys have the light bulb come on later in their careers. You just never know. And so we'll never get to know if Kenichi Udeze would have been a better player down the line. He's a single. You look at 2005, Marcus Spears. LSU defensive tackle drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. Single. They thought they were getting a monster in the middle. What they got was a very average player that can hold his own on the defensive line, but isn't going to stand out from the rest of the group. When you draft a guy in the first round, you're looking for him to stand out amongst the rest of his peers. And Marcus Spears just was another one of your defensive linemen. That's not good enough. He's a single in this league. You look at 2006. 20th overall selection goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. They take Tamba Hali, defensive end / outside linebacker out of Penn State. I was wrong about Tamba Hali. I thought that Tamba Hali was an average at best pass rusher. I looked at him and I said, what does this guy do that sets him apart from other pass rushers in this league? Why should I think that he's any better than anyone else? I look at him. His build isn't that physically imposing. Yeah, he's a big guy, 6'4", about 265, 270. But he's not cut. He's not chiseled. Doesn't scare me when I just look at him. So then I say, okay, well, is he explosive? I look at him. Doesn't seem to be that explosive. Well, is his first step explosive at least? Maybe. But if I have to wonder, then is it truly explosive? Is he fast? No. Well, what does he do well? He's got a high motor. He understands leverage. He understands what he needs to do, has technique. He just gets it as an outside rushing linebacker. That's what it all boils down to. He knows how to bend at the hips. He knows how to get around tackles by using his hands. He's very crafty, and he has a high motor. He's a try-hard guy that gets the most out of everything that he has. And so Tamba Hali has exceeded my expectations, probably exceeded the expectations of the Chiefs. Even though when you draft a guy in the first round and you expect him to be good, I don't know if the Chiefs expected to get what they've gotten out of Tamba Hali to this point. He is a triple in my eyes. Is Tamba Hali a very productive outside linebacker in this league who is essentially a double-digit sack getter in this league? You look at 2007. 20th overall selection goes to the New York Giants. They draft Aaron Ross out of the University of Texas. Look, Aaron Ross is a guy that has talent. There's no mistaking that. He left New York for a big payday in Jacksonville, and he didn't play good football. And now he's back in New York, and I got to dock him for that. He claimed that his stay in Jacksonville was a paid vacation. If you're a good player, you can play anywhere. And he simply just didn't play well in Jacksonville. So he's a single. You look at 2008. 20th overall selection goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They select Aqib Talib, cornerback out of Kansas. Solid pick. But the off-the-field issues, coupled with the injuries, have stopped this guy from probably being what he is supposed to be in this league to this point. Aqib Talib, for me, is a double. He probably should be a triple. He has home run talent, but the injuries state otherwise. So do the off-the-field transgressions. Aqib Talib, a double right now. You look at 2009, 20th overall selection, tight end out of Oklahoma State, Brandon Pettigrew. Detroit Lions make him the 20th overall selection. He's been a solid target for Matthew Stafford. I think he can be better. I think he can be more utilized. But look, they throw the football to him a ton. So I think Brandon Pettigrew has been really good for what the Lions are looking for. Not the most athletically gifted guy, but he's a big target. Could be more consistent when catching the football, but Brandon Pettigrew is a really good tight end in this league. He is a double. You look at 2010. Houston Texans spend their 20th overall selection on a cornerback out of Alabama named Kareem Jackson. I like Kareem Jackson. I think he's tough. I think that he's a guy that has struggled at times, but mentally he's tough, and I like that. Not afraid to go in and throw his hat in the mix and make a tackle. He struggles at times, but because the corner across from him is so good in Jonathan Joseph, he gets a lot of work over there at the cornerback position. And at times, he can be taken advantage of, but I like Kareem Jackson because he's not afraid. He's not afraid to make a play. He's not afraid to take chances. And if he gets beat, he has selective memory. He'll come back and he'll try to make a play. I like Kareem Jackson a lot. I like the toughness. I think Kareem Jackson is a double in this league right now. So you look at 2011. 20th overall selection goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They select defensive end Adrian Claiborne. Look, I never liked this pick when it was made. I still don't like this pick. I thought that Adrian Claiborne was a guy that just benefited from playing in the Big Ten. I didn't think he was overly athletic. And so I really didn't know what to make of the pick. I just wasn't a big fan of it. And to my surprise, what do you know? He hasn't been that successful in the league to this point. It's too early to give up on a guy, but I honestly don't like what I see out of Adrian Claiborne. But it's what I expected when he was drafted. And he's a single right now. So you look at 2012. 20th overall selection, Tennessee Titans, Baylor receiver, Kendall Wright. Look, guy has talent. And his production in his rookie season, nothing to scoff at. You know, over 60 catches, over 600 yards receiving. Solid season. Especially for a receiver coming in to a team with turmoil at the quarterback position. I think he played really well. But the Titans, I didn't think, used him to his best ability. This guy is one that can stretch the field. He's a home run threat. And I thought that they didn't use him vertically enough. Everything was short in the passing game for him. And they just wanted to get the football in his hands. And that's understandable. But this guy can run by defenders. Let him run. Let him go and get the football. I think that Kendall Wright has a bright future in this league. And I think he's a double right now. at the 20th selection for the Tennessee Titans in 2012. So that's the 20th overall selection over the last 13 years. You add these scores up and you average them out, you get a single. And a lot of singles. And when you get a lot of singles, what do you expect to happen? So now it's up to the Chicago Bears to draft well enough to up this single to potentially a double. We'll see. It's going to take a lot for a single to turn into a double. But we'll see what the Bears have done in the first round over the last 13 seasons. So you start at 2000 for the Chicago Bears in the draft. And their first round selection in that year, Brian Urlacher. And the pitch. It's a deep drive. Deep to left center. Way back. This one is gone. A home run for the Chicago Bears in 2000. Man, that pick seems so long ago. Here we are in 2013, and Brian Urlacher just wants a roster spot on the Chicago Bears. This was a great pick by the Bears, though. 13 years ago, the Chicago Bears made Brian Urlacher the centerpiece of their defense. And he responded by being one of the most productive linebackers in Chicago Bears history. There's no denying that Brian Urlacher is an absolute home run in this league, has been, and probably will end up being a Hall of Famer someday. Brian Urlacher, home run in 2000 for the Chicago Bears. You look at 2001. You go from one extreme to the other. One end of the spectrum to the other. You go from a home run in 2000 to an absolute strikeout in 2001 with the drafting of Michigan wide receiver David Terrell. It was always a wonder to me why the Bears' offense was never really that good. And it's not hard to see why when you look at these draft picks by the Bears on the offensive end. For some reason, they just don't seem to get it right on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, they get it. Most times they're not. Offensively, they leave a lot left to be desired, do the Chicago Bears in drafting. And here's a prime example of that. David Terrell, receiver out of Michigan, 6'3", had all the physical gifts that you look for from a guy coming into the league, just never materialized. And maybe it was the lack of success at the quarterback position. Cade McNown and all those guys, Jim Miller at the quarterback position. That does not help. No, it doesn't. But at the end of the day, you still got to find a way to get it done, and David Terrell simply didn't. He's a strikeout for the Chicago Bears in 2001. Look at 2002. Mark Colombo. Again, you want to know why the Bears struggled on offense all these years? Here's another example of that. Mark Colombo, an okay tackle at best in this league. He played his best football elsewhere, not with the Chicago Bears, and was just okay at best, even in his other stops. Mark Colombo, a single in this league. You look at 2003. Michael Haynes, strikeout, defensive end out of Penn State. Look, the Bears just simply whiffed with Michael Haynes. They thought they were getting a guy that was going to come in and change the game at the defensive end position, and what they got was a guy that simply did not get it in the National Football League. Strikeout. Also in 2003, the Bears drafted in the first round Rex Grossman, quarterback out of the University of Florida. Wow. This guy actually took you to the Super Bowl, amazingly enough. Now, a lot of that was the defense. But your quarterback still has to not throw up all over himself. And at stretches in that season, Rex Grossman was on fire. Problem is, when he wasn't on fire, this guy was ice cold. And so that was the extreme that was Rex Grossman in Chicago. You either got really good Rex or really bad Rex. And when Rex was really good, he was the player of the month in the National Football League. But when Rex was really bad, he was gross, man. And that's the issue with Rex Grossman over his career, is he can be really good or he can be really gross, man. And for the Bears, Rex was simply gross, man. And so he was a single for the Chicago Bears in 2003. So you get a strikeout of Michael Haynes and a single in Rex Grossman in the 2003 draft. I must say, that is absolutely the way you do not want to do it in the NFL draft. You look at 2004, Tommy Harris. They hit a home run here, but injuries really zapped the career of Tommy Harris, and instead of a home run being hit, it simply turned out to be a double. What looked like a home run that bounced off the top of the wall actually turned out to be a ground rule double for Tommy Harris and the Chicago Bears in 2004. You look at 2005, Cedric Benson. And you drafted this guy early in the draft expecting him to be the next best thing at the running back position for the Chicago Bears. And what you got was a guy that had off-the-field issues, who maybe lacked the work ethic that you were looking for, and wasn't overly productive in his time in Chicago. His best years were years spent elsewhere, mainly in Cincinnati. And so, again, the Bears drafting a guy, you get a little bit of production out of Cedric Benson, but not what you thought you were getting. And so, Cedric Benson essentially is a double in this league, barely. But you didn't reap the benefits of drafting him. Someone else did. And so, again, if you look at the draft history of the Chicago Bears, you understand quickly why they're not explosive on the offensive side of the football, and haven't been for a long time. You look at 2006, no first-round pick, traded that to Buffalo. So you move on to 2007, where they drafted Greg Olsen, tight end, out of the U. This guy was exceptional. Should still be a Chicago Bear, but instead you have offensive coordinator Mike Martz come in, who devalues the tight end position, and you allow him to trade Greg Olsen for a chocolate milk, hot ham and cheese sandwich, and a bag of Frito-Lays, and get nothing in return. Makes no sense. Greg Olsen should still be a Chicago Bear instead of you having to invest big free agent dollars on a guy like Martellus Bennett. You should still have Greg Olsen on your football team. Instead, you don't. 2006, Greg Olsen is a double. He's played really well in Carolina. But Jay Cutler should have had Greg Olsen to throw the football to. Again, another mistake made on the part of the Chicago Bears. You look at 2008, Chris Williams, tackle out of Vanderbilt. You drafted him to be a tackle. He ends up being a guard. More problems for the Chicago Bears drafting on the offensive side of the football. He's a single at best, is Chris Williams, who is no longer with the Chicago Bears, I might add. You look at 2009, no first-round pick. You traded it to Denver. You look at 2010, no first-round pick. You traded it to San Francisco. This is a mess right now as I'm looking at this draft history over the last 13 years for the Chicago Bears. You look at 2011, Gabe Carimi, tackle out of Wisconsin. Hey, I'm all for going to the Big Ten for offensive lineman. But Carimi gets injured. He ends up getting benched. You end up sliding him inside to guard. And so, again, another pick that seems like it's going in the wrong direction on the offensive side of the football. We will see, because Gabe Carimi could end up turning out to be an exceptional guard in this league. Who knows? But at 6'7", that's the size of a tackle, not a guard. How will he move in the interior of that line? We'll see. He had flashes of solid play in 2012. We'll see if he continues that in 2013. You look at 2012, Shea McClellan, defensive end out of Boise State. Look, really didn't get to play much in 2012. He was behind Israel Adonijah and Julius Peppers. And so he's just got to wait his turn. I think his time is coming now. We'll see. Bears have not re-signed Israel Adonijah to this point, and so maybe Shea McClellan will get his turn in 2013. We'll see. Right now, he's just a single in this league, only posting 2.5 sacks in his rookie campaign. So you look at the Bears' overall history over that 13-year span in the first round. Yikes. It's a single, and barely. I mean, these guys barely made it to a single, but you can understand why. I mean, you get a couple of strikeouts, a lot of singles. You trade away at least 3 picks. If not for Urlacher and that home run, this might not even be a single. So count your blessings that Urlacher was there in 2000 to save you. But fact of the matter is, you average it all up, it's a single. Between the 20th pick and the Chicago Bears, it's barely a single. They had to slide headfirst into first base. When is that ever acceptable? So if you're the Bears, you got to be better at drafting in the first round. I mean, my gosh, this was terrible. So at 20, you got to make sure that this pick is a guy that's on your roster, A, in 5 years, and B, is a really good football player that you get production out of. For too long, the Bears have been drafting players that have either been subpar or just not really good picks. So let's see how the Bears do at 20. Really, I think you need a linebacker. Brian Urlacher, as we know, up there in age. You signed DJ Williams. He's no longer a spring chicken either. You could use linebacker help. You would love a guy like Alec Ogletree or maybe Arthur Brown to fill in at the linebacker position. You have the luxury of drafting a defensive end if you would like. Why not? I think Bjorn Warner could be there. DeMontre Moore will be there. You have options. What about the receiver position? I actually think that Alshon Jeffrey is going to be perfectly fine. But maybe you want more dynamic players in the slot. Maybe Earl Bennett isn't dynamic enough for you. Who knows? Maybe that could be something that you address in the draft. Offensive line is definitely an issue. You went out and got Jermon Bushrod. Maybe, just maybe, Jamarcus Webb will actually make a good right tackle. I'm not sure about that, though. Just because he doesn't work at left tackle doesn't mean, hey, let's move him over to the right tackle and he'll be fine. Maybe you need to draft the tackle. Who knows what the Bears are going to do at 20? The options are endless for the Bears at 20. All I know is you have to draft a good player. Take the highest player available on your board. Stay true to your board. That's all you need to do. For years, I think what you've done is try to address needs via the draft and not stay true to your board. And not staying true to your board has gotten you in trouble. It's watered down your roster. When you go reaching for players at a position, at a specific pick, you water down your roster. And I think you've done that over the years, which is why your offense hasn't been up to par. Now you've got some really good players that you've gotten via trade and free agency. Now you have to start supplementing your roster with good draft picks. And the way to do that, the best way to do that is to stay true to your board. You always hope that the best player available meets a need on your board. But if it doesn't, you still got to take the best player available anyway. And that's what the Bears have lacked over the years. They need to do that at 20. If you're the Bears, you hope the best player available is a linebacker so that you can take him at 20. But if it isn't, you got to do the next best thing and draft the best player available on your board. And that's going to do it for the Chicago Bears in the draft game.
Mm-hmm.